Hi there, I'm Michelle the Painter from Berkshire Paint and Sip, and this is Paint and Sip at Home. Alright, so today I'm going to be painting berry picking mice, and I'm going to be sipping on my iced tea. And if you enjoy this process, I do hope that you like and subscribe to my channel, and that you also check out my Patreon page where you're going to find additional painting perks. So let's get painting and let's get sipping. Alright, so for my materials today, I'm going to be using a stretched and primed 16 by 20 inch canvas. If you're painting along with me, you can certainly switch up the size, but that's what I'll be using. I'm going to be using acrylic paint today. My colors are titanium white, ultramarine blue, Mars black, fire red, green oxide, burnt umber, which I will call brown, and deep yellow. And of course you can switch up those colors if you'd like to, but that's what I'll be using. For my tools today, I'm going to be using a white piece of chalk for some drawing, and then I have 3 brushes. I have a 1/2 inch wide flat bristle brush, I have a number 6 round synthetic brush, and I have a number 1 round synthetic brush, and I will refer to these as small, medium, and large as we go through the painting process. And of course you can switch those up as well. If you're painting along with me, you'll probably want to have a cup of water for washing your brushes, as well as a paper towel for drying your brushes. And down below this video, I will be providing you with a couple of additional resources that can help you throughout your painting process. One of them is a link where you can purchase the same exact paint kit that I'm using, from the large canvas to the same type of paint and brushes and all the good stuff in between. So that's there for you. There's also a link where you can download a free image of the final painting. So you can print that and use it as visual reference as you go through the painting process. And there's also written step-by-step instructions down there for you as well. And that's all we're going to need today. Alright, so what we're going to do for the first step is we're going to be painting our background. I'm going to be using my large bristle brush. The colors that I'm using are blue, black, green, and white. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to have my background very dark at the bottom with a nice dark blue, and then I'll have some greens coming in the middle, and then up towards the top I'm going to get it a little bit lighter. So it looks like a really out of focus winter type landscape sky area. So I have pre-mixed some of my blue into the dark blue that I'm looking for, so you guys can see how I got to it. So this is the dark blue color that I'm going for the bottom, and how I got there was I used my ultramarine blue and I added a little bit of black paint to it. You don't need a lot of black paint to turn it into a dark blue color. The black really easily and quickly takes over, so you just put a little bit of black in at a time in order to get it to that dark blue color, and it will turn a little bit darker as it dries, so just in your head kind of plan for that color shift as it dries. It will get a little bit darker. So once you've got the desired dark blue color that you're looking for, you're going to, I'm starting at the bottom of my canvas, and I'm going to be doing a very carefree kind of left to right brush stroke to get the bottom area covered in through here. And once I get about a quarter of the way up, I'm going to start introducing some of my green paint, and then as I work my way up towards the top of my canvas, I will start getting it a little bit lighter and lighter. So this is about as far up as I'm going now. Without washing my brush, I'm going to be picking up some of my green paint and putting some large green areas on my canvas and through here. And again, since I'm not washing my brush, the green is mixing with that blue that was already on my brush, providing me with some good kind of color variations throughout the area. Now what I'm going to do, even though I don't have my whole canvas covered, is I'm going to start picking up blue with a little bit of white paint. So this way my color is going to start to get lighter and lighter as it goes up my canvas. I'm going to get these areas to kind of blend in with one another as they're drying. I can just use this kind of left to right crisscross type of motion. You could also use a circular type of brush stroke. So wherever you're more comfortable with getting that color on there is totally fine. And then as I work my way up my canvas, I'm going to get the top left-hand corner of my canvas the lightest. So I'm going to work my way towards that in a minute. And I'm going to pick up a little bit of green and white as I'm moving up towards this right hand corner up here, and now I'm just going to start picking up some white paint. So I have a really dirty brush right now, and that's going to create a nice complementary light color up in this top left hand corner, and that way it looks like there's almost a light source up in that upper left hand corner. So I'm just kind of working all these colors together. Now that I've got them on the canvas, I can just kind of start manipulating and maneuvering them around a little bit so they blend a little bit more with each other. And then as my paint is drying, this is when I can get it to really have a nice soft effect. So I can use my dirty brush and start to kind of move these colors around in various directions as they're drying. That's going to allow it to look a little bit softer. So if you want your colors to blend in a little bit more and have almost like a really soft, out of focus type of look, what you can do is just kind of keep moving them in different directions with a light pressure on your brush, and that's going to get them to look nice and soft and like they're all blended together. You can also let it dry and do a second coat on top of it. That will also give it a really smooth finish. So whenever you have your background done, we are going to be switching to our chalk for the next step. So once you've got the, actually no, we're not switching to the chalk. We're going to use our medium brush for the next step. So once you've got this done, you can put your large brush away, take out your medium brush, and get ready for the next step. All right, so what we're going to do for the next step is we're going to paint some branches. I'm going to be using my medium brush. The colors that I'm going to use are black, brown, and white. And this step would probably be easier for you if you made sure that your canvas was dry before you did it. So this is one of those steps where you get to take that extra long break if you'd like to. Or you can find some kind of fun fanning method to get it dry. Or you can do as I did and just whip out a blow dryer and get it dry that way. So these branches are going to be covered by a ton of snow and some cute mice, so we don't have to make them perfect. We just really need some place for our mice to be and for our snow and our berries to be. So I'm going to have mine in a diagonal position, and I'm going to have a couple of branches coming off. I am considering my mice when I do this branch, so I do want them to have a place to sit, so I'm not going to make it too diagonal because I don't want them to slide down it. So I'm going to make it at an angle where I feel that they'll be nice and safe. So I'm going to put some black and brown on my brush at the same time. On the left hand side, I'm going to have the back end of my branch coming up about a third of the way up my canvas. So if this is about halfway and this is about a quarter way, or maybe it's just a little bit above that. So maybe like 6 inches or so. So somewhere in here is where the rear end of it's going to be. And then I'm going to have the farthest end is going to be right about here. So if this is about halfway up or down my canvas, I'm almost a quarter of the way between those two for that portion. And then I'm just going to connect these two again with some brown and black on my brush in a non-straight line. So I'm going to just kind of give it a little bit of wobble along the way. I'm going to have it a little bit wider at this back end. So for me, when I'm doing branches and tree trunks and stuff like that, I always have in my head that they're going to be wider as they reach the main area of the tree. So I'm considering these to be like the ends of the branches. So I'm thinking that this back end would be a little bit wider in through here. And then I'm going to have it forking out a little bit in through here, something like that. And again, you can have yours wide or narrow, whatever works for you is totally fine. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to have a couple of branches coming off. So I'm going to have one coming off in this direction. So if this is about halfway left to right in my canvas, I'm a little bit to the left of this one, or a little bit to the left of the center, and I'm going to just have kind of a branch coming off in through this direction, maybe a little shoot out over there. I'm going into the darker region here, so I just loaded my brush with more black paint so I can have a bit of a darker branch that you can see a little bit more. And then maybe I'm gonna have a mouse over here who's kind of like reaching for a little bit of a berry, so maybe I'm gonna have a little branch coming off in this direction as well. So feel free to make yours as you want. I also want Mama, she's going to be reaching for some berries that are going to be in a little branch up in through here. So I'm going to have this somewhere from the top right hand corner of my canvas. I'm going to have a couple of little offshoots of this branch in through here. And again, this is a branch, so yours doesn't have to be exactly as mine. You can certainly have yours in whatever kind of formation that you want. And then once I've got it in there, what I'm going to do is I'm going to add little streaks of highlight. So I'm not going to wash my brush. I'm just picking up a little bit of white and brown on my brush, and I'm just going to kind of give myself little bits of highlights throughout the branch, so it gives itself a little bit of a 3D type of, or three-dimensional type of look to it, but I'm not overdoing it, just putting some little light streaks here and there so I don't have a flat branch, and if some of the branch shows throughout the berries, this will give it that nice natural look to it. And then once you've got your branch done, we are going to be using our piece of chalk for the next step. So you can just put this brush away wherever you'd like to. Take out your, actually, let me just put a little bit of a light streak on this little branch so we can see this too. So you can put your medium brush away, take out your piece of chalk, and get ready for the next step. All right, so what we're gonna do for the next step is we're drawing the outline for our mice. I'm gonna be using my chalk, and again, it would benefit you if your canvas was dry at this point, so probably just your branch. If the branch is still wet, you might bump into it, so drying it would behoove you. So I'm gonna use my chalk. I'm gonna give you some really basic shapes to create these mice. They're a whole lot of fun. You can put them in a bunch of different positions if you want to. I'll show you how I'm going to construct it, and then you can use that same thought process to construct them in any different way that you want. I'm going to have a mom with a couple of little mice kids having fun trying to pick some berries, but you could have yours in essence kind of doing anything. I'm going to do Mom first because she's the biggest, and she'll help you to see how I'm going to construct this, and then we'll do the little kids next. So I'm going to construct each one of these with some circles. For a circle for the main part of the body, a circle for the head. We'll connect those two for the mid body. We'll do some legs. We'll do some circle ears and just some lines for the arms and legs, and we'll be done. So I'm going to do her belly first. If this is a mom, I guess this could be the dad too. But I'm going to have it sitting almost on the center of this branch, maybe a little bit to the right. I'm going to have the big belly area is going to be about this big. So you can have it overhang your branch a little bit if you want to, but mine's maybe, I don't know, 2.5 to 3 inches wide by that kind of height. Then I'm going to go up maybe, I would say about 2.5 inches, and I'm going to do a circle for the head. I'm going to put mine a little bit off center from this circle. So if I go up here and then just to the right a little bit, that's going to be where I put my head circle. So this is going to be, for me, it's going to be about half the size of my actual, or maybe a third of the size of this one, but you can certainly make it whatever size you want. Then I'm going to do a midsection for the middle of the body, so you can just kind of connect your head to your body. It doesn't have to be a perfect shape. Then what I'm going to do is I'm going to put a couple little bumps on the face. So I want my face looking over at these berries in through here. So I'm going to do like a bump for the nose, and then maybe a little bit of a bump for the mouth itself. So something like this would totally work. I'm going to put some ears on the back. So the one that's closest to me is going to be the bigger of the two. So I'm going to put this one in through here. And then I'll put a part of one over on the other side. And I've got mine kind of as if the mouse is looking up in that direction, so they're kind of backed a little bit. I'm going to put some bumps for the legs. These are, I would consider these to be like the knees of this of these legs, so something like this. This one's going to come, I would say, maybe about up to here, and just a little bit of a bump in through here. And then I'm going to put an arm on her as if she's reaching for some berries. So I'm going to go somewhere in this direction with the arm, get it to be a little bit more narrow at the wrist, and then I'll just kind of pop up a little thumb and maybe the rest of her hand. And it'll look better, of course, once we paint it in, but that'll give you the general idea. Her feet, we'll just paint those later. Her tail, I'm going to have that coming, of course, it's on the other side of the body, so I'll put it somewhere in through here. And you can have, I'm going to put mine a little bit thicker at the top and then down at the bottom as it comes down in through here. I'm just going to kind of trail it off like that. Then I'm going to go for one of the little kids. I'm going to have one over in this direction. So again, I'm going to do a circle for the main body part. So something like this. And of course it can overhang that, the branch if you want to look a little like it's got some extra weight to it or some extra little berries in his belly. I'm going to do a circle for the head. This one's going to be proportionately larger from the belly to the head than the mom was, just because that's, to me, what a little kid, their heads are bigger than their mom or than an adult. And then I'm going to connect that to the main body with just some little connector pieces. I have one little arm that's going to be shooting straight up from the crook in through here up to mom's hand, something like that. I don't need to put a hand on it yet because we'll make some details later. I'm going to put some ears like this because the head is back. He's like looking up at the berries, something like that. And then I'm just going to put a bump over here for his leg, just like he's sitting on the side. And I'm going to put a little arm in through here, hanging on to the branch or holding him up from falling off of the branch. I'm going to have this little guy's tail coming out in through here, and it's going to be smaller than mom's, so something like that. Then I'm going to put a third one over here who's trying to reach for some berries down in through here. So I'm going to go ahead and do, again, a circle for the main body part. Something like this. I've got this one kind of laying down on his belly, so I'm going to have a little head down in this direction like this. I'm going to connect the head to the body with a couple of little connector pieces. This one I'm going to see the side of the face, so like mom, how I have that little bump, I'm going to do the same thing with this little guy and put a little bump on his face to direct the viewer to know that we're seeing the front of the face. Or the side of the face. I'm going to put a couple of ears, like right in through here, just oval type of shapes for the ears, a full one and then a partial one. And I've got this little arm coming out of the mid body somewhere in through here. He's going to be reaching for some berries off of this branch over here. And then I've got a couple of cute little legs. So these legs are going to be one on either side of this branch. So I'm going to have like this little thigh coming in through here, and then his little foot is just going to be kind of dangling off, something like that. And then this one on the other side, we're just going to see a little piece of it, something like this, and then just give a little cute foot at the end of there. And then I'm going to put a really cute tail on here that's going to wrap around this particular branch. So I'm going to have it coming out this bottom side over here, and it's going to wrap around the top of this, and then it's going to come out from underneath here and then wrap around again. So something like that. You can certainly have yours wrap around however you want. But that's all I'm going to do for my outline. You can certainly tweak yours as much as you want to. We're going to use our medium brush for the next step, so you can just get ready. Alright, so what we're going to do for the next step is we're doing the base coat for our mice. I'm going to be using my medium brush. The colors that I'm using are red, yellow, brown, and white. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to pre-mix myself a base color for these mice. Mice can come in all different colors. You can have black mice and white mice and brown mice and tan mice and all different colors of mice. So if you want yours a different color, feel free to do so. I'm going to go with just a nice tan type of a color, nice neutral with our winter scene here. So what I did, I magically pre-mixed my color, but I want to show you how I got there. So I'm really just going for a real medium type of tan color, almost like a skin color-ish type of tan. So how I got there was I used about equal parts of yellow and brown, and then I use just a little bit of red and a little bit of white. So it's mostly yellow and brown, and then a little bit of yellow and, it's mostly yellow and brown with a little bit of red and white. I need a little more white in here, and then I just kind of keep, turn my palette so you can see it a little bit better. I keep spinning it around and adjusting the color to what I want it to be. So this, I would probably add a little bit more yellow into it, so it got a little bit richer of a tone. And then once you find that tone that you want, know that it will get a little bit darker as it dries, so you can certainly plan for that. But once you've got it, that looks pretty good to me. Once you've got it where you want it, we're just going to paint the mice in. So I don't need any special brush stroke. The only thing I'm going to do is just kind of slow down when I get to the smaller areas like my hands. I can just kind of slow down and get them in the size that I want them. And if I don't do it perfectly, I'm all right with that, because these are make-believe mice. So you can certainly make yours into looking some other way. If it comes out a little bit big or a little bit small or a little bit fluffier, that's totally all just going to work out, because these are, you know, like storybook illustrated type of mice. So you don't have to have them exactly as mine. You can certainly have fun with whatever way that you want. I'm bringing it all the way to my chalk mark, but if there's areas on your chalk that are still evident after this step, that's okay, because you can just erase it with a little bit of water. So if you're finding yourself going through this process and you're like, ooh, I wish that I had, you know, not put that chalk out that far, just don't paint all the way to it, and you can certainly just erase it once you've once the paint has dried. And then I'm just going to kind of make sure that I have this kind of silhouette in through here. And also, if you go outside your lines and you make something the way that you don't want, don't worry about it, because we have this beautiful fun detail that we'll be painting later, which is called snow. And we can hide a lot with snow. So if you do something that you don't like, don't feel the, you know, pressure or obligation to make it look perfect, because you can disguise almost anything with a nice heavy layer of snow. So that's that little guy. Going to give him his tail in through here, and I just bumped a little bit too much into my branch, but that's all right. I can again disguise it with some snow or some berries or any other kind of fun element that will allow me to, or I can just paint the branch right back on top of it too. That's always a valid process to putting, you know, if you paint something on top of it by accident, you can just paint it, you know, repaint that branch on top of it. So I'm going to go in for this little guy here, giving him his arm. And you can certainly use a smaller brush to get the littler guys in through here. If you wanted to use a smaller brush to color in this base coat, that's totally fine. I just tend to use the little tip of my brush, but you can certainly, you know, if it's easier for you to use a smaller brush, you can go right ahead and do that. And for me, I tend to get my hand in my chalk a lot, so I end up with little chalk residue all over my canvas, which again, we're doing a snow scene, so that's okay. But if you get some chalk residue all along your canvas, you can always just erase it with a little bit of water. So that's totally an easy fix. I love putting this little belly on top of that branch. That makes me happy. It makes me feel like he's really eating well, and he's got some extra little I don't know, warmth on his belly, some extra little food in there. And then of course I'm going to do this little guy over here. And I'm having this head kind of overlapping the branch on purpose, so it looks like he's kind of, you know, reaching pretty far for the berries that he's going to be trying to work for in a little while. So I've got that face on top of that. And you can see I'm painting right over both of my ears, so you're going to probably lose the delineation between the two of them in the middle, but we'll get that back when we're doing the details to it, the highlights and the shadows and all that good stuff. So as I'm doing this, I'm not terribly concerned about losing those lines. They're very easy for us to re-identify where they are and put the information in that's going to be necessary to tell the viewer everything that we want to tell the viewer. And then putting this little hand on here, not doing much for detail at all. Oh, he's now got an elbow. Okay. We're going to roll with that elbow and just let it happen because it's kind of cute. That's another wonderful thing about painting. Sometimes we just embrace the oopses, and you know, sometimes they become the favorite part of the painting. At least they do for me anyways. And I'm just going to go ahead and finish this little leg in through here. And then I'm going to go ahead and put my little tail on. So this tail is going to come something like this. And again, if you want to use your small brush, or if you want to change the direction of anything, feel free to do so, because you can, again, just erase that chalk when you're done. And then we're going to be utilizing this same brush for the next step. So once you've got this base coat of your mice on, you can wash and dry that medium brush and get ready for the next step. Alright, so what we're going to do for the next step is we're going to be painting some berries. I'm going to be using my medium brush. The colors that I'm going to be using are red, black, and white. And if I need to, I'll use a little bit of brown or yellow, but I'm pretty sure it's going to be mostly just red, black, and white. So how I'm going to do this is I'm going to be doing a bunch of kind of chaotic circular type of shapes with my red paint, and then I'll add a little bit of shadow and highlight to them to make them look a little bit more three-dimensional. But again, know that we're going to be putting a whole lot of snow on top of them. So if they don't come out perfect, that's okay. So I am resembling these after berries that are around where I live, and they tend to be like in these little clusters, and they're pretty symmetrical in size, the berries. So you can vary up your size of your circles a little bit, but the more kind of uniform in shape they are, the more they'll look a little bit more natural. So I'm going to have a bunch up in through here. You can have clusters at the ends of your branches, but you can also have little bunches kind of coming out other areas of the branch and of the canvas. So that's about the size of the berries that I'm going to do. And even though I'm doing a pretty similar size circle, I will be overlapping them with one another. So you can do like some singular type of ones and then some that kind of wrap on top of each other. I definitely want to have a cluster within my my mouse's hand, so they don't all have to be circular. Like some of that circle would be hidden in the hand. I'll just have a couple of maybe little bumps on top, and then maybe they're going to go into another little cluster that, you know, is up in through here or something, and then maybe this grows into this one over here. So how I'm getting mine to be pretty similar in shape is I take my brush and I'm kind of going in at a direct angle, and then I spin my brush, the tip of my brush a little bit, and that's going to give me a pretty symmetrical type of circular shape. And then I can go ahead and just add some over in whatever kind of cluster type of region that you want. These type of berries can also have little tiny twigs in between them, so you could utilize that thought process and put use a small brush with like brown or black and put little twigs in there if you wanted to. So this is looking pretty good up and through here. I'm going to go ahead and put a whole bunch of bunches down in through here. One of them I definitely want to be kind of close to this little guy. Like he's almost got it. He's reaching, and he just needs a little bit longer of an arm, or maybe just, you know, I don't know, move up the branch a little bit or something. You can put some all over the place. I'm going to be putting some on over here. And again, just kind of utilizing a carefree circular type of motion. Maybe I'll have a couple coming off in through here. You can have them covering parts of the branch. They don't have to just be at the end. You could give the insinuation that there's a little cluster here or there coming off of a small piece of a branch that's in the middle of a branch. So branches can be on top of one another. They can be in all different kinds of chaotic little shapes. I think maybe that's looking pretty good to me. Maybe I'll have, I don't know, maybe this one will be a little bit bigger. And they don't just have to be, you know, one tiny cluster. They can, you know, you can have clusters on top of clusters, so feel free to have fun with that. Then what I'm going to do is I'm going to put little, I'll call them shadows underneath some of them. So I'm going to pick up, I didn't wash my brush, I just picked up a little bit of black. I definitely want to have a shadowy area in this hand. This is probably the main area that I want to have a little bit of a shadow. So I picked up a little bit of black paint, and I'm just giving this illusion of depth inside this hand by putting a little bit of this black paint in through there. And you can get it to blend in with some of the berries, but just this little bit of darkness inside there is going to give us that great illusion that there is, she's holding a few and there's some depth in through there. And then you can take that black, and if you want to give a couple of these berries in the bunches a little bit of a shadow underneath, you can certainly do that. We're going to put a highlight on them in a minute, but this just helps to give that, you know, illusion of depth. You can even put a little shadow in between some of them if you want to. And I'm just really using the tip of my brush with a little bit of that black paint on it in order to get a couple of little shadows in between some of these berries. And then once I have this done, then I will I'll add some highlights to my berries. So sometimes in this type of step, if you're having difficulty with layering on top of layering like I'm doing, you may want to let your berries dry for a minute, and that'll give them a little bit of time to kind of just get that paint to dry, and you can put layer upon layer. But I like to, when I'm doing a step like this that has these dimensional elements, sometimes I like to just keep building it as it's going, so that way all these colors end up talking to one another. So I'm washing and drying my brush, and my highlight color is going to be white and red. So I'm going to take white paint. I don't want this to be confused with the snow that we're going to be putting on later. So that's why I'm allowing it to kind of mix in with the wet red that's already on there. So I've got white on my brush right now. And what I'll do is I'll just go and I'll pop this bright highlight on a few of them like this, and just little taps of this light color. You don't have to do it on all of them, just on a select number of them. And then without washing my brush, I pick up some red, and I just kind of go back in and do any additional little, almost like a medium tone in some of those berries. So I'm really just providing this variety of tones within this cluster of berries. Maybe some of these white marks end up staying white. That's going to allow the viewer to think that that's an extra shiny part of the berries. So don't feel like you have to have, you know, manipulate all of those white areas into a mid-tone. Just, you know, go with what is coming natural to you and what you feel looks pretty natural. And if you feel like you got to add more red, add more red. If you feel like you want to elevate that highlight a little bit, elevate that highlight a little bit. But by doing this, it's making it look like we've got berries on top of berries. So I'm going to do the same thing down here. Just wiped my brush off on my paper towel, picking up some white paint, giving myself a couple of little white dots on some of these berries. I suppose you could curve it a little bit if you wanted to, but again, you don't have to put it on all of them. This is just something that's going to give the illusion that some of them have that bit of shine to them and are have a bit of form or roundness to them. So that's why I'm not doing all of them, because some of them might be hidden underneath other ones. So if you were to do every single one of them exactly the same, they wouldn't necessarily look as natural. So then I just picked up some red paint, and I'm going to get this highlight to just kind of blend in a little bit if I want to. If not, awesome. This highlight was a bit much, so I just kind of took some of that white paint, and I'm going to spread the wealth of that highlight. And of course you can continue. Red is great because the more layers you put on with the red, the more vibrant it would become, especially on a dark background like this. So if you feel that you want to continue to add multiple layers to your berries, feel free to do so. At this point, I'm just kind of tapping in this circular motion where that highlight is to kind of get it to blend in a little bit. Maybe pick up a little bit more white to bring back a little bit of this highlight that I made a little bit too dull. And then once you've got your berries done, we are going to be utilizing our small brush for the next step. So you can just put your medium brush away, take out your small brush, and get ready for the next step. All right, so what we're gonna do for the next step is we're gonna paint some facial features. I'm gonna be using my small brush. I'm gonna be using black. I'll also be using some white and my tan color, and if I use any other, and red too. We're gonna make a little pink color too. So, and maybe some yellow. I will let you know every color that I'm using when I use it. Sometimes in advance it's like, will I be using that? I don't know. But I think those are the colors I'll be using. So I'm going to use my small brush. What I'm first going to do is I'm going to put my nose, my eyes, and my mouths in place with a little bit of watered down black paint. So what I do is I take my brush and I'm going to just dip it in my water to have a little bit of water on my brush. And then I'm just going to take and thin out a little bit of my black paint. So that way it's like an ink consistency and it gives me a nice pointy brush to create these with. So again, these are imaginary mice, so you can have your eyes as big or as small as you want and your nose as big or small as you want. So I'm going to start with my biggest mouse in through here. I'm going to have my eye a little bit to the right of where the head meets this ear, so a little bit to the right of that. And I'm going to have it down. If this is where the tip of my nose is going to be, it's almost kind of directly parallel with that. So somewhere in this vicinity, and I'm making mine kind of I would say on the bigger side. I think it's going to look pretty cute. If it's got kind of a big eye, you can certainly make yours as big or as small as you want. So something like that. I'm going to wipe my brush off on my paper towel so I can give myself just these little bit of maybe some soft edges to this, and I'm not really doing much more than a little circle. I suppose you could pull down the little corners of the eye if you wanted to, but that's not necessary. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to come over to the nose in through here. So I'm really just going to give myself a little bit of a curved line coming up like that, and then I'm just going to kind of give myself a little bit of a line where I feel like the front part of the mouth would go. You could have your nose down a little bit further into that divot, whatever you feel is working. I'm just using a real soft touch here. I don't have a lot of paint on my brush, just giving the illusion of a little bit of a mouth in through there. So that's all I'm going to be doing for that. I'm going to wipe my brush off on my paper towel. I think I'm going to pick up a little bit of yellow to put some color in this eye right here. So I just picked up a little bit of yellow. I'm going to give a little bit of a crescent just to give a little bit of color on that eye. Wiping it off on my paper towel, picking up a touch of white paint to give myself a little bit of sparkle in the eye near the top of the eye, just pulling myself a little bit of a light area to give me that little hint of life and sparkle in that eye. So nothing really major. We'll put some other information around the eye when we put the fur on. But what I'm also going to do is I'm going to put some pink on the nose. So I'm going to just take a little bit, well, first let me wash my brush so I don't have any black on it. I'm going to take a little bit of red and mix it with some white. So I'm going to just go for a light kind of pinky tone. I'm going to, again, water this down a little bit. So I added a touch of water so it's kind of transparent or translucent. I'm going to put a little bit of that pink on the nose. So just a little bit of pink in through here, and then just kind of rub it out into the fur. So something like this. So this is the time, if you wanted to or needed to, you could pick up that fur color and get these two to just blend in with one another. So I picked up that fur color just to get those two to blend in. And you certainly could put a little of this pink on the front of the face too to make it look like there's a little bit of skin, but I just did it primarily on the nose area. So that's all I'm going to do for those facial features. I'm going to come to this little guy here with my watered down black paint on my brush. He's looking up, so I'm going to have his cute little eyes are going to be just these little kind of slivers of oval type of shapes right up towards the top of the head. I'm going to do a little tiny V for the nose, it's not going to be much farther down than those eyes. And then I'm going to give a little kind of center spot for between the nose and the mouth. And then I'm just going to give a real faint little kind of mouth in through there. So nothing major on him. Gonna wipe my brush off on my paper towel, pick up a tiny bit of white paint, give myself a little sparkle in those eyes. So just a little tiny sparkle in those eyes. Wipe my brush off, pick up some of that pink, give that little pinkness on the nose, and then just rub it up in between those eyes and just kind of disappear on the top of the head. I'm going to go down to this other little one over in this bottom left, wiped my brush off, picked up some black paint to decide where I want my eyes to go. So I want these eyes to kind of like look like he's looking at this beautiful bushel of, or bunch of berries. So I'm going to put it somewhere, I would say somewhere in through here. And I want it to be kind of on the bigger side. So that, something like that looks pretty darn cute to me. I'm gonna still use a little bit of that watered down black paint to give myself a little bit of the impression of a little nose, something similar to what I did to the mom, where I just give this little sliver of information over in through here. And then I'm going to pick up a little bit of my yellow for that eye, just like I did with mom. So just a little bit of yellow, then a touch of white to give me a little sparkle in that eye, looking towards those berries, and then wipe my brush off, picking up some of my pink for the nose in through here. So just a little bit of pink on that nose, and just bring it up and maybe get it to blend in with the fur color. I just picked up some of the fur color, so something like that, and just get it to blend up. And that's all I'm going to be doing for my facial features. We're going to be using our medium brush for the next step. So once you've got these done, you can put your small brush away, take out your medium brush, and get ready for the next step. All right, so what we're going to do for the next step is we're finishing the bodies of the mice. So this is going to be their midsection, their arms, their ears. What we're not going to finish right now are the tails, the feet, and the hands. We'll do those in the next step. So I'm using my medium brush. I'm going to be using my tan, black, brown, white, and probably some yellow as well. So how I'm going to do this is I'm going to put some shadowy areas in, which are going to show the form of these bodies, and then we'll put some highlights in, which will tell the viewer where the light source is coming from, and it'll all kind of blend together and make it look like it's a cute little animal. So I'll show you how I'm going to do it. I'm going to start with a little bit of brown and black on my brush. I don't need a lot. I'm going to do the large mouse first. I'm going to be using mostly a dotting type of technique to put this on, but at some points I might have to just kind of rub in a line so I can tell myself what's happening. So I'm going to, right now I have the brown and the black on my brush. I'm going to kind of outline this belly area from the leg. So I'm going to do the same thing on both sides. So once I've got that in through there, I know that I'm going to have some shadow on these legs. So I'm just going to take my brown and black and kind of dot in this shadowy area on the legs. Then without washing my brush, I pick up some of my original tan color just to get it to blend up towards the top of that leg. So this way I'm kind of blending on the fly with a nice fluffy texture to it, so it gives the animal itself a little bit of dimension for that softness. So now I'm not washing my brush, just picking up some brown and black to put the shadow underneath this belly in through here, as well as underneath my arm. So I've got a little bit of brown and black, just giving myself almost like a little outline underneath here. Then what I'm going to do is I'm just wiping my brush off on my paper towel. I'm going to pick up some brown and my tan color to get this shadowy area to kind of blend up and down from where I just put it on the where I put the outline area. So what this is doing is I'm just getting these areas in essence to show you where the darkness is. I'm moving it towards the lightness, which is going to be on the left side, and it gave you the information as to where that arm is coming out. I just picked up a little bit more brown so I could get these to blend in a little bit better in through here, so that works out for me like that. As I'm moving up here, I will be putting some lighter fur on this left hand side, but right now just kind of want to get these two areas to blend in with one another. I'm working on the dark areas first, and then I'll work my way towards the light. So I just picked up a little bit more brown and black on my brush, not a lot, but a little bit. I'm going to put some underneath this, the face and the chin in through here, and the neck in through here. So just kind of dotting this on here, letting it also outline kind of the top portion of the arm in through here. So darker underneath the chin, and then I'm just getting it to kind of fade out into the main area. So I just wiped my brush off on my paper towel, picking up some of that original fur color just to get these two to blend in with one another. I'm going to put a shadow underneath the arm. So again, just the brown and a little bit of black is going to give me a touch of a shadow underneath this arm. So something like this. Just again, just adding that bit of form to it so it doesn't look like it's flat. You could certainly put a little bit darker if you wanted to, so wherever your comfort zone is for that dark fur underneath there, feel free to do so. I'm going to put a little bit of a shadow in this ear, so this is going to kind of separate the head from the ear. So I'm going to have it coming in through here, right about in through here, and then I'm going to just kind of dot it towards the exterior of the ears. So to me, if my light source is over here, I'm going to have some light coming through those ears onto the top of the head. So this ear would be the darkest. So I put that shadow on there, picked up some of my original fur color, the tan, and just getting it to blend out in through here. I'm gonna, that's gonna remain that color. And now what I'm gonna do, so I've got pretty much all the dark areas on that I want. Now what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna be picking up my original tan to make sure that this all blends into that original tan. And then I'm gonna start to have an even brighter color as my highlight. So my brighter color is gonna be my tan plus white. And if you want it to be more on the creamy side or luminescent side, you can also use a little bit of yellow. So you could take your tan and add a touch of yellow and white as your highlight color. And I'm going pretty light on this, but not all the way to white. So this is just a light tan color, and this is going to be my highlight color on the bright side of the animal. So you might want to get this really, really bright. You might want it to be really soft looking. Whatever is comfortable for you is totally fine. I'm dotting it along the left-hand side of the animal where I feel it would be the brightest. So over on these ears, the tips of the ears, I feel like they would be pretty darn bright. And then once I've got it in my brightest areas, then what I can do is I can wipe my brush off on my paper towel and pick up my original tan color. I didn't wash my brush, I just picked up that original tan color and I'm dotting it in. So this is going to get it to blend into that main area of the animal and get it to look nice and natural. And this dotting technique works really well for me. You might find that if your paint dries faster than mine, or you want it to be a little bit softer looking, that you adapt a different type of brush stroke, which is totally fine. Whatever is your comfort zone works. That's where you're gonna provide the best painting, wherever your comfort zone is. And then once I've got this on here, I'm going to put a little bit of white on my brush to give myself a tiny bit of an extra highlight right at the tippy top of the head in through here. I don't want this to look like snow, but I definitely want it to be a little bit lighter up at the top of the head. So just a teeny bit of white paint in through there, maybe a little bit on the edges of the ears. I might put some little snowflakes on these later, but right now just kind of making sure that they're as bright as I want them to be, and then making sure everything kind of talks to each other. So if you wanted a little highlight around the eyes, you could do that. Any little adjustments that you feel would work, feel free to do them. Maybe a little bit of this light tan over here on this knee back here, so it looks like it's being illuminated by whatever that light source is. And my mouse looks nice and fluffy because I'm using that dotting type of technique. And then once you've got that done, I'm just going to move on to my next one. So I'm going to go down to this little one on the left hand side here. So brown with a tiny bit of black. The smaller guys are a whole lot easier because they're a whole lot smaller. So I'm thinking about my shadows first. So I'm going to do this leg in through here is going to get a little bit of a shadow. And I might be using more of a stroking type of brush stroke for these little guys just because they're much smaller. I'm going to put a little bit on the butt in through here. So a little bit of my brown and black on that rear end. Maybe a little bit more black just to get it to really look like it's got a shadow on in through here. A little bit underneath the neck in through here. So just my brown and my black is just kind of tapping in a little bit of a shadow in through there. Maybe a little bit in between the leg and the belly, something like this. Give that a little bit of shadow. Gonna pick up my original tan to make sure that shadow speaks to the rest of the animal and that I've got nice full coverage on it. I don't really need to do, maybe I need a little bit on this arm here just to make sure that I've got a little bit of dimension, but I don't really need a whole heck of a lot. Maybe a touch of black at the bottom of it just to give it a little bit of shadow underneath there. And then my ears, I think again I'll have a little bit of shadow in this one over here. Not much, just a teeny tiny bit. Now I'm picking up my my original tan color, just again to make sure that everything is speaking well together. And I'm going to pick up that light tan right now to give myself the highlight on the back, something like this. I'm going to go on my ears, so I got little highlights on the tips of those ears, on the top of the head, in through here, maybe a little bit on that shoulder, and then just tap it to make sure that I have the shape that I'm looking for, that the viewer can understand the shape of these objects. So I just picked up a little bit of that original tan just to make sure that this is all speaking really well together, and just by tapping it in as it's drying, that's helping me to get these colors to look like they belong together. Maybe a little bit of white I'm picking up a little bit of white to add that bit of extra highlight on the back, maybe a tiny bit on the top of the head, just like I did on the larger one. A little bit on top of the head, a little tiny bit on the top of the ear. Again, just to accentuate the shape and make sure the viewer can see everything that I want them to see. So if you don't have enough contrast, sometimes being able to see certain things makes them look, it looks flatter if you don't have the contrast involved. So that's looking pretty good. I think I'm going to move over to my other little guy. Yeah, oh my god, these are so cute. I like making little characters like this because every time I make them, they make me happy because they're just so playful and cute, and you get to make them whatever way is appealing in your head. I'm going to go over to this little guy here. So again, just wiped my brush off, picked up a little bit of brown and black. I'm going to give him a good shadow over here on this right hand side, making sure I tackle his belly in through here to give some good little dimension on that belly that's kind of hanging over. A little bit of shadow in through here. I have a little bit too much paint on my brush, so just wiping it off, making sure that it's gonna blend in up in through here. So just pull it up just a little bit inside this little crook of this leg. I also on this guy need to kind of separate the head so it makes sense. So I've got that brown and black on my brush. I'm going to give a shadow over here on this right hand side of the face into that ear. So that's going to separate the ear from the face. And I'm going to do the same thing underneath the face into the neck area. So something like this. So this is a little bit trickier, but you can certainly, you know, understand or make the viewer understand where these different body parts are by just adding the highlights and the shadows. And then I have this arm in through here. So I don't need much shadow in this ear right here, but this is gonna tell the viewer where the difference between this arm and the ear are. So that just allows that to stick out a little bit. And then you also need to do something on the side of the face over on this side so you can see the difference between the face and the arm right there. So just adding those little bits of outline, so to speak, will make the viewer understand what those pieces are. I just picked up some of my original tan to make sure my shadow blends in with that original tan color. And then I'm going to go ahead and pick up my light tan, the real creamy kind of color to give myself my highlights, maybe a little bit on the ear over in through here. And again, if you wanted to use your small brush, you certainly could as you're working these smaller little guys in through here, because sometimes the, you know, if you're not used to a particular brush or if it's a little bit too big for the way that you paint, it does become a lot easier to use a smaller brush, but it's up to you. It's whatever works for your hand. I just picked up some of that original tan to get my highlighted area to blend in, and you'll see this whole belly area starts to take form and shape as I go ahead and do that. And if you have any little adjusting things that you want, I'm going to put a little bit of this on the face in through here again, just to make sure it's all painted and we've got some good texture on there. And then we are going to be switching to our small brush for the next step. So once you've got your dimension on your cute little mice and you've got the bodies and all the fur done, you can put your medium brush away, do any little adjustments you want, and then just get ready for the next step. All right, so what we're gonna do for the next step is we're gonna finish our hands, our feet, and our tails. So I'm gonna use my small brush. I'm gonna be using black, white, and my pink color. And if I need to go back into that original tan, I'll do that as well. So how I'm going to do this is I'm really just kind of giving like a little bit of a skin tone to the hands and the feet, or a pink mouse tone to the hands and the feet and the tails as well. So I don't know, when I think of mice, I think of like there's no fur on those areas, so that tells me that it's kind of like a skin color. So I'm going to go with a little bit of a pink and maybe a little bit of dimension while I'm at it. So I'm going to start with this little hand in through here. So I'm just going to pick up some of that pink color that we created for the faces, and I'm just really going to kind of do another layer on top of here. I'm feeling like that might be a little bit too light though, so I'm adding a touch more red to my pink just so I can see it a little bit better. So I just made my pink a little bit darker, so as I do this I can have that visual effect that I'm looking for. And I want the right side to be a little bit darker than the left side, so I'm going to add some of my background color as well into it. And if you feel like the fur color, if you feel like any area needs a little amping up, feel free to do so. But I'm going to right now pick up a little bit of I think I'm just going to pick up brown paint for the area underneath this hand. So I have my pink plus brown on my brush right now, and I'm just giving some little shadows underneath this hand on the right hand side, and maybe deepening that pink a little bit just with a touch of the brown on my brush, just again so I can have it look like it's going off into the shadow. And then I'm just going to blend this pink into the arm, something like that. I can also pick up a little bit of my highlight color, so I just picked up a light tan color to get that left hand side, or white, whatever. I just picked up white also, so just a little bit of highlight on this left hand side, similarly to what we did to the bodies. Then on this little arm right in through here, again, just a teeny tiny bit of that pink right at that little wrist, and just kind of bring it down to meet the rest of the body. And if you need to add a little shadow, I just picked up some brown paint, give myself a little bit of a shadow just to make sure that it does everything I want. I have a little hand over here, so I'm gonna pick up a little bit of my pink paint to give myself a little cute hand in through here with a little thumb. And I'm really not going to do much there, just did the pink. I'll pick up a little bit of brown just to make sure that it is, oh, actually a little bit of black will give me a little shadow underneath that hand. So if you ever want to do a little shadow underneath the hand, you can certainly pick up a little bit of black. I'm going to do these two tails in a similar way. I'm going pink is where my brain tells me to go. I just put the pink with a little bit of water so I can have a nice fluid type of brush stroke here. And I'm not going for a full coverage on the tail. I'm just kind of give myself a little bit of that pink hue to it, and then maybe I'll add a little bit of a highlight and a shadow as well, but just kind of giving myself, I gotta put snow or something on this branch here, but I'm just using a little bit of that pink plus a touch of water, give myself this little streak of a light. I'm picking up now a little bit of white to give myself a highlight on this left hand side of both of them, something like this, just to again give myself a little bit of dimension in it. And of course you can play with it all you want. You could even put a little shadow on it if you want, but I think that's looking pretty good for me. So I'm going to move on to this little guy over here. So again, just pink is, oh, I need to do the feet on this one first. Forgot about the feet. So I'm going to wash my brush, and I need to put a foot on that one too. So washing my brush, going to pick up a little bit of black paint. I'm just going to have little like claw, toe, feet things going on here. So I picked up some black. I'm going to have it coming out in through here. So just like maybe 1, 2, 3, coming maybe out from underneath the belly area. Maybe we've just got these cute little feet coming out like this. So I just did like 3 toes. They're hard to tell because they're black right now, but I'll put some pink and white on them in a minute. And then on this guy right here, I'm going to just have a little foot coming out over here. So I'm just doing like these little curved toes coming out. I'm going to wash and dry my brush, and now I'm going to put a little bit of that pink as a skin color on it. So a little bit of pink. I'm not going to get rid of all of my black. Just going to kind of give myself a little toe popping out here, and then I'll do a little bit of a white area as well. So I just picked up a touch of white. Going to give myself a little highlight on these toes, maybe make them look like they've got little knuckles or something. So just little highlights. And again, you don't have to do a whole heck of a lot. Picking up a little bit of pink. Really, I'm just giving the impression that they've got these cute little toes with a little shadow. Maybe the other one is hidden underneath his belly. Now I'm going to move on to this other guy here. So wiping my brush off, picking up some of my pink, going to give these little fingers some pink details on them. Maybe this little thumb is like totally reaching out. Going to bring some of this pink up into the arm just so it looks like it's maybe got a little bit more substance there. I'm going to give these little toes some pinkness on them, and you could certainly bring it up the leg a little bit if you want to. And I am not a mouse expert, so I don't even know if I'm making mine anatomically correct, but I do know that I'm making them fun. So if they're not anatomically correct, I apologize. I'm gonna, while I've got the pink on my brush, I might as well just go for this tail because it's all part of the same thing. So just putting some little pinkness on my tail over here. Gonna pick up maybe a little bit of brown, maybe a little bit of brown and black just to give myself a little bit of shadow, maybe between these fingers a little bit, or on this bottom side of the arm. And again, you can use your best judgment when it comes to doing these dark marks. You might think that you want a lot or a little, whatever, again, it is visually appealing to you. I don't think I need much underneath this tail, maybe a little bit of shadow on my stick, and then a little bit of white is going to give me just a tiny bit of highlight on that tail and maybe a little bit on the fingertips. So maybe just a teeny bit in through here. This is just a little tiny bit of white on my brush, and then we'll give a little highlight here and maybe in through there. And that's all I'm going to do. I'm going to be using my large brush for the next step. So once you've got your hands, feet, and tails all done, you can put this small brush away. Take out your, I might have said medium, but I meant large. Take out your large brush for the next step and get ready. All right, so what we're gonna do for the next step is we're gonna be putting snow everywhere. So I'm using my large bristle brush. The colors that I'm gonna be using are black and white. And how I'm gonna do this is I'm gonna do a quick first layer of snow on some of my berries and my branch. So that way I have a little bit of a dimensional element to the snow, and then we're just gonna put some white fluffy snow everywhere. So I'm going to take my white, and I'm gonna pick up a tiny bit of black paint, and I'm really just going to make myself a shade darker than white, so it's a real light gray kind of color that I'm utilizing as my first pass for the snow that is gonna be sitting on some of my berries and stuff. And again, this gives you a good dimensional element to it. So I'm going to be making my snow kind of in various kind of little piles on my on my branches and on my berries. So just utilizing that gray and just kind of putting little piles with the corner of my brush wherever I want it to be. You don't just have to be on top of stuff. You can put little bunches of snow within your berries, so that makes it, or climbing up the branch a little bit, so that again makes it more authentic looking and gives you a little bit more information as to the, you know, where snow would sit and how it's having fun sitting in various spots on these berries and stuff. I try and keep it very organic and not so systematic, but if you find yourself making it very organized looking, that's totally fine. I'm going to put a little bit in through here and maybe some over on this branch up in through here, and I usually put it on the top of objects, so I wouldn't necessarily put it all on the bottom side of my berries. I'll put some clusters at the top because to me that's where the snow would sit. It would sit on top of things. So I'm going to just kind of dab in some over in through here, and again still just using that grayish type of tone to put the first layer on here. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to start progressively to just get whiter and whiter. So I'm just going to be picking up some white paint. I did not wash my brush, and I'm going to put the fluffy white snow on my where it's sitting on the trees. You can even put a couple of little dots on the backs of your mice if you think that that's going to be cute. Just use the little tip of your brush to do that, and then I'll just put some of the white snow within where I put the gray areas. So, but I'm not going to over paint it. I'm not going to cover up all that gray, because that will help to sell the story of my snow having thickness to it and having that dimensional element to it. So I've got the white paint, I'm dabbing it on here in some nice chaotic little dots and allowing it to intermingle with the gray, but not to cover it up all the way. And then once I've got as much of this snow piled up on the tree and within the berries, then I'm gonna start to add snow to my sky. So I do snow in a couple of different application processes, so I'll show you a couple of them, and then you can certainly decide however you want to add your snow and let it fly in your sky as you see fit for your painting. So you can do a couple of different methods. I tend to like to flick the paint onto the canvas, but this will give you 1,000 little tiny dots. It's more successful if you have a little bit of moisture involved, so you can dip your brush a little bit in your water, tap it on your paper towel, pick up some of that white, and then utilizing that bit of moisture within your brush will allow you to have these million little sparkles throughout the painting. So that's one method. You're going to get really dirty if you do this method though. You can also let it snow in front of your mice. That's going to be one that I'm going to want to get rid of. Hold on one second. I'm just tapping on some of my original tan color. And so you can put some, of course, on the backs if you wanted to. I saw this spot, I wanted to put snow, so I stopped on putting snow here. But so you can do that splattering technique, and then you can also just dot it. So I love to just kind of dot, dot, dot away with these bristle brushes. I like to run out of paint or let my brush run out of paint while I'm doing this, so that way I have some really kind of dominant pieces of snow, and then I'll have these little tiny faint pieces of snow. I'm just using the tip of my brush, and I am really just kind of tapping it until I feel like I kind of start to run out of paint. And once I start running out of paint, that's when I can really get aggressive with the tapping, because it'll give you a million little tiny light marks that will look like those snowflakes that are just off in the distance and, you know, are almost like out of focus and just causing like a little fogginess in the air. But I gotta almost run out of paint, or I can certainly wipe my brush off on my paper towel if I don't run out of paint in the time that I want to. But I like it heavier at the top, because that's going to tell me that the snow is coming down the most at the top, and then I just kind of keep tapping it until I feel that it's as much as I want. I'm going to actually wipe my brush off on my paper towel right now, because I want to get a little bit of this the fainter snow down at the bottom. So in order to do that, I can't have a lot of paint on my brush, so I just kind of keep rubbing it off on my paper towel. And now there we go, we got it now. And I'm just going to kind of utilize the remnants on my brush to get as much of the snow inside and all around my mice. And again, I'm going to go faint down at the bottom, because I really like the effect of the darkness down at the bottom. So I'm going to not put too much snow down there, but make it look like it's nice and natural. And then once you've got enough snow on your canvas, we are going to be utilizing our small brush for the next step. So if you can ever stop painting snow, which is one of those hard to stop steps, you can, oh, and use your snow to hide stuff too. So if you've got anything that you feel needs a little disguising, put some snow on it. And then you can put this large brush away, take out your small brush, and get ready for the next step. All right, so we are on to the final step. This is the final step of every painting, which is to sign it. So I usually sign mine in the bottom left or the bottom right corner. I think I'm going bottom left on this one. I'm going to use my small brush. I'm using black paint. I sign mine with my initials, but you could certainly sign yours with your first name or the date or a symbol, or whatever you want for your identifying mark to be is totally fine. You can sign it whatever way that you would like. And that is going to conclude this painting. I hope you enjoyed the process. I hope you painted yourself a very adorable winter scene, and I look forward to painting and sipping with you again sometime.